Hey everybody, welcome to the Shadows to Moon podcast with a little bit of chaos. If you're looking for some talk on the paranormal, cryptozoology, UFO community with some self-empowerment and tarot thrown in there, you come to the right place. I'm your host, Shadows to Moon, and sitting across from me, as always, is my co-host with the most, Mr. Chaos. So sit back, relax, and let's join in the conversation.
You're watching me, yeah, all eyes on me, 'cause I've been living the good life. So come fly with me into my fantasy, and we be loving the good life, good life.
I think this dream now just hit me. Why don't you just go there with me? Surf in the skies and splash in the clouds, dance in the crowds and laugh out loud.
Hey everybody, what's going on? How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Hello, nubs. I hope you're feeling better, huh? Nicole, Andy, Paranormal Circle. How is everybody? Just a live chat. Yay! What's going on? Thank you for sharing out the video, nubs. Appreciate it. I do. Hey, Christina, how are you? Hey, Spooks. I forgot what that was. Thank you for the follow. Somebody followed, I believe. Didn't show up. I don't know what the hell that was. All right. Anyway, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. As always, we welcome everybody joining in the conversation. So today we got a couple things to talk about. One of the weirdest. Oh, thank you, Nub. Subscribe to me, Shadows. Thank you, Nub. You're the best round. That was low. Very cool, Scoop. Very cool. Yeah, so we got a lot to talk about. I've been watching this documentary and of course UFOs, duh, right? And an interesting thing came out. Now, I don't know if you guys know who Richard Doty is. Doty, whatever. He is he worked for the CIA. He was an Air Force intelligence officer, which his task was to put out, yeah, yeah. He was, his task was, he was a disinformant, basically. He, his job was to go out and somebody basically, and what he states on this documentary, I mean, if you've seen his face and you've watched UFO documentaries, or even been in the UFO community, you know who he is if you've seen his face. You'd be like, oh yeah, that guy. He stated in this, and I found it very informative, I guess. He really went into detail about what he did, right? And now his job was basically, like I said, he was a disinformant. He would sit there and tell people, he would make people believe it was UFOs. Say Area 51, they were working on a special, like when they were doing the stealth, right? Obviously, they didn't want the Russians and everybody to know what they were working on. So he would go out and talk to people and basically lead them to believe in UFOs. He tells some of it was true, some of what he said was true, but then he would lead it on. So so people thought people were nuts. I mean, it was a really sad thing to watch, of what our government did. I understand it, but yet it just, I don't know, you know. Um, it was just a very, I don't know, I was like, I had mixed feelings about it. You know what I mean? It's like, there's a hair. Apparently not, but it feels like it. So anyway, I was watching this and this caught my eye because I had started this documentary and then I read about what he had said. And I was just like, okay, now I got to go watch this episode. So I did. And now he was talking about the infamous UFO crash in New Mexico, of course, in Roswell. But he was talking about another way out west in Magnadilla, New Mexico. There was another crash that was found 2 years later. But the first crash in Corona, New Mexico, saw the UFO recovered, and the U.S. government, they got the UFO. And they also, you ready for this? He spit this out that they had recovered a pilot, an alien named Evie. Now he says Ava in the documentary, but it was later basically Evie, which is an acronym for um, extraterrestrial. Uh, what the hell is it? Biological entity. That's what it is. So yeah, that's basically what he said, that we, the government, he basically admitted that they had recovered an alien. And that, he said, but the first crash in Corona, New Mexico, the UFO recovered, and U.S. government also recovered its pilot, an alien named Edie. Edie told us all about their technology and how much they knew in the universe. And Dowdy's saying that Edie was male. He was transported to Los Alamos, where he lived out the rest of his life, and he died in 1952. So I thought that was very weird that, like, it's hard for me because of the fact that he's a disinformant. Hey, Cassie, how you doing? Hey, Blue, how you doing? Well, they're not going to release that, Nicole, because then they got the government. See, the government is trickling information, which we all said, well, at least I said, that they were going to. They're not going to put everything out there at once. They're just not. They're going to try because there's a whole lot of us out here in this world that still don't believe in UFOs, and stuff like that. So they're not going to do a file dump. They're just not. You know, they still have to cover up their asses for what that they lied. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, so you're not going to see until you actually see aliens walking around in true form on the earth. I don't think you'll ever see, you know, either thank you, Cassie, for sharing me out documentation or, you know what I mean? Yes, I know, Andy. I'm so sorry. Says Missy, I hope you're not going to try to imply that the government might withhold info or even lie about things. Disgustful behavior, lol. I know, right? God forbid I talk about that. But yeah, so it was just shocking to hear him say that. Um, when it comes to people like that, that's been in the disinformant game, I guess. It's hard for me. I take everything they say with a grain of salt. Um, you know what I mean? Especially, like I said, with them being disinformant agents. Um, like they say, the way they work is they feed a little bit of truth in with a whole bunch of lies. So I don't know. Although I did watch another documentary where, well, not a documentary. I don't know what it was, a program, I guess, where they used voice analysis. I don't know if you guys know who Ben Hansen is. I love Ben Hansen. Um, one of his programs, they used voice analysis on the old recordings of people testifying and then come up true or false or whatnot, if they were lying or whatnot. And uh, um, they basically, a lot of the things, when it came to alien bodies and everything, that was all true through the voice analysis. So I believe that they found a body. I believe that one, Steve Bob, the one, I don't know what it is, but there's this one, hey, gamer girl, how are you, hon? Uh, there is this one video where it shows one of the aliens they supposedly captured, and the poor guy looks sad as hell. Or at least not sad, but well, sad and scared. And I mean, I really felt that when I watched the video. I really felt that he was scared and sad. You know what I mean? So was that Evie? I have no clue. But oh, very cool, cute gamer that I went to the YMCA on that walk trail. Very cool. Hey, Ghost Rider, how you doing? Hello, Freaky Geek. Welcome, welcome. How you guys doing? So yeah, interesting, interesting. I wanted to bring that up first of all. Now we're going to discuss some Hangar 18. I don't know if you guys know, but uh, back in the day, Megadeth wrote a song about Hangar 18. I actually had this album. Hey, Melanie. Okay. She's like in another doctor office waiting. I'm gonna try not to do out loud today. I'll try. I'll try my damnedest not to make you laugh. I can't promise anything for these guys. You know how they are. Waking up for the second time? Very cool, Scoot. Very good. But yeah, what is everybody doing being sleepy today? When it comes to cryptids, it don't matter, or paranormal, or UFO. If you know what you saw, you know what you saw. You know. Oh, you had a wicked storm last night. Hmm. I'm not sleepy. I will be in a little bit, but I'm not sleepy now. So, like I was saying, Hangar 18, of course, if you don't know what Hangar 18 is basically, Hangar 18 is where they took everything. It's Wright Field, or it's now known as Wright Patterson Air Force Base, just outside of Dayton, Ohio. And Hangar 18 is where they supposedly stored everything. Like I said, Megadeth, which I had this album, maybe that could have turned me on to UFOs too. I don't know. But the lyrics of Hangar 18 are, and I'm not going to sing it. Good try, but I'm not going to sing it. This is Welcome to Our Fortress Hall. I'll take some time to show you round. Impossible to break these walls, for you see the steel is much too strong. computer banks to rule the world, instruments to fight the stars. I almost started singing Possibly I've Seen Too Much, Hangar 18, I Know Too Much. Foreign life forms inventory, suspended state of cryogenics, selective amnesia's the story, believed foretold, but who would suspect? The military intelligence, two words combined that can't make sense. Possibly I've seen too much. Hangar 18, I know too much. So that's what they wrote the song about. Well, they didn't write the song. The government didn't write the song, Freaky Geek. You're very welcome, Andy. But Megadeth did. And Dave Mustaine's got a much better voice than I do, so I wasn't even going to attempt to sing that. Especially like Dave. Yeah. It's everything proof, Freaky Geek. It's the government's building. Right, Ghost Rider? I wish they'd give me a starship too. So, they're asking, does Hangar 18, the legendary alien warehouse, really exist? Crashed UFOs, alien autopsies, and government cover-ups, untangling the legends surrounding Ohio's Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. As home to Project Blue Book, ground zero for the government investigation of UFOs from 1951 to 1969, Wright Field, now known as Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, outside of Dayton, Ohio, ranks up there along Area 51 as a subject of enduring speculation. Many of the rumors surrounding Wright-Pat, as it's known for short, involved what might have gone on inside the particular building known as Hangar 18. UFO enthusiasts believe the government had physical evidence from their investigation, including flying saucer debris, extraterrestrial remains, and even captured aliens in the mysterious warehouse. Specifically inside a sealed, highly guarded location dubbed the Blue Room. Hell yeah, Megadeth. The legend of Hangar 18 goes back to the supposed crash of the UFO in the desert near Roswell, New Mexico in July 1947. And according to press release issued by the Roswell Army Airfield, at the time, their personnel inspected the flying disc and sent it to the higher headquarters. A subsequent press release from the Air Force Base in Fort Worth, Texas, assumed to be the aforementioned headquarters, claimed the disc as a weather balloon, a claim that the Air Force acknowledged was untrue in 1994, admitting that it had been testing a surveillance device designed to fly over nuclear research sites in the Soviet Union. Hey, thank you for the follow. Thank you for the ice cream, Blue. Welcome. Welcome to the stream. But in addition to Fort Worth, many UFO researchers believe some of the materials from Roswell were also transported to Wright Field after the crash and stored at Hangar 18. And based on reports from former military pilots, one, Oliver Henderson, reportedly told his wife that he flew a plane loaded with debris, along with several small alien bodies from Roswell to Wright Field. And according to the children of another pilot, World War II ace Marion Blackmack Magruder, the father claimed to have seen a living alien at Wright Field in 1947 and told them it was a shameful thing that the military destroyed this creature by conducting tests on it. Yes, Andy. And all this time I thought it was swamp gas from the desert environment. That's awesome, Ghost Rider. That's awesome. So Senator Barry Goldwater of Arizona, the Republican nominee for president in 1964, was notoriously fascinated by UFOs and Hangar 18. Goldwater said publicly that he tried to gain access to the Blue Room in the early 60s, but it had been denied access by a furious General Curtis LeMay. Even after Project Blue Book wrapped up in 1969, rumors continued to swirl about Wright Pat. In 1974, a Florida ufologist named Robert Spencer Carr publicly claimed that the Air Force was hiding 2 flying machines of unknown origin inside Wright-Patterson's Hangar 18. Now that's according to the Tampa Tribune. Carr claimed to have had a high-ranking military source who saw the bodies of 12 alien beings while autopsies were being performed on them. Though Carr's claims were dubious, widespread media coverage of them, as well as the release of the 1980 movie Hangar 18, helped cement the legend of Wright Pat as a hotbed of government UFO-related activities. Do you guys think that that's where they sent everything? From what I can tell, everybody that has ever said anything about Fort Wright has said that that's where they've taken everything. Hey Rain, how you doing? Catch up on chat. Oh, now based how we treat aliens, what the fuck makes the U.S. government think it would stand a hope in hell with any kind of space travel? True. It says the semi-retired Master 8 base near me poisoned our water. They had monitoring stations throughout the neighborhood, and every report said, "Oh, your water is wonderful. The bath water is blue." Honest, right? I think they did. I mean, that's my opinion. Um, that's my opinion. That's where they stored everything. I really believe that. Of all the witnesses that have come forward and said, "Yeah, this is where it goes. This is where," I mean, I don't understand why it's not publicly, but like well known as Area 51. Everybody wants to go to Area 51. I get that. Okay, but that's all that they do there is test freaking stuff that's secret. You know what I mean? I mean, they just bought up, well, not just bought up, but I mean, where you used to be able to go up in the run. You're the best. You're the best around. Thank you, Miss Rain. Um, where where you used to be able to go and watch, like where Bob Lazar took his friends and everything, to go watch to see the UFOs that everybody supposedly sees up there. The government bought that all around there. See, now you can't see shit. I mean, you can see stuff if you go into, where they're watching, you'll see the black helicopters, I'm sure, or the Air Force people coming around. But other than that, you're really not going to, you know. Freaky stuff. Not me. It's too far and I'm too chicken. That's funny. So yeah, I mean, most people don't like underground. It's normal. We're used to living above, not underground. That's true. That is true. I think that's why people get spooked out in basements. You know what I mean? So let's go into talking about how the U.S. Air Force investigated UFOs during the Cold War. Of the 3 post-war government investigations into UFOs, Project Blue Book was the most long-lived. But was it a mission to investigate or debunk? On the afternoon of June 24th, 1947, amateur Kenneth Arnold was flying near Mount Rainier, Washington, when he suddenly spotted 9 unusual objects on the horizon. Arnold claimed the craft fitted from side to side and flipped in unison, like the tail of a Chinese kite. And he estimated that they were moving around 1,700 miles per hour, far faster than any known aircraft. He initially assumed that, the physics-defying objects must be secret military vehicles, but he later admitted that the incident was as much as a mystery to me as it is to everybody else. I mean, I can understand that, thinking that. I mean, before the stealth came out, if I saw a stealth flying in the air, I'd be freaked out. I'm not going to lie. I'm really not. I'm trying to think if I would. Well, I don't think I can go back to thinking back then, because I was asking myself basically, would I think it would be military if I saw some strange craft in the sky? Not today. Not today. It's automatically going to go UFO, right? So even if they were testing different looking planes or anything like that, I would automatically probably assume it was UFO. So is that the narrative they wanted people to think? Because they did it. Many guards have repaired victory with M60 machine guns. Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. So Arnold's extraordinary story soon found his ways to newspapers across the country, and reporters pounced on his description of the objects as moving like a saucer if you skip it across the water. And within days, of course, the term flying saucer was born. Coupled with the famed July, 1947 incident at Roswell, when Air Force claimed a military weather balloon was mistaken for an alien spacecraft, Arnold's encounter helped spark a wave of flying saucer sightings across the United States. The military brushed aside most of these close encounters as misidentifications or mere hokum, but a few reports came from air traffic controllers and commercial pilots, people trained to search the skies with a discerning eye. This hysteria also held, the hysteria also, yeah, let's try that again. The hysteria also, because it grew wider because it was the beginning of the Cold War, leading many to speculate that the mysterious sightings might be hostile Soviet aircraft. Thus began official government investigations into the mysterious phenomenon. So the first forays was Project Sign. Following an official Air Force inquiry, General Nathan Twining fired off a memo in late 1947 describing the flying disc phenomenon, or as something real and not visionary or fictitious. He suggested the military launch an investigation into the source of the sighting. By 1948, the Air Force had initiated Project Sign, the first of 3 military offices tasked with collecting and analyzing reports that were termed unidentified flying objects. Project Sign's investigators quickly concluded that UFOs weren't coming from behind the Iron Curtain, and that their flight characteristics simply didn't match those of man-made aircraft. But some of the team may have embraced the idea that UFOs were not of this world. Nubs is always a lurker. It's one of those things like a ghost hug. You know it's there, but you know what I mean? You can't feel it. It's like Nubs. You know he's there. You just can't always see him. So, according to Air Force Officer Edward Ruppelt, that's right. Thank you for the ice cream and the lemons. According to Air Force Officer Edward Ruppelt and others who studied UFOs for the government, Project Sign produced a report in the 1948 summer speculating that the sightings might be evidence of interplanetary or extraterrestrial craft. Air Force brass supposedly rejected and destroyed the document on the grounds that there had been no hard evidence for its conclusion. To this day, no copies of the report have ever been recovered. They destroyed them. They just said, bullshit, and destroyed them. And then, of course, came Project Blue Book, saucer sightings, and more. Project Sign was terminated in late 1948 and replaced by short-lived Project Grudge, which was later succeeded in 1951 by the now famous Project Blue Book. Based on Wright-Patterson Air Force Base near Dayton, Ohio, Blue Book served as the government's main repository for sightings of unidentified aerial phenomena. Over the next 18 years, its tiny staff investigated thousands of reports and often went into a field to interview Americans who had experienced close encounters with all manner of flying saucers and discs, cigar-shaped rockets, and dazzling nighttime lights. The Blue Book era began with a bang. Projects Sign and Grudge had only averaged around 170 UFO reports each year, but 1952 brought an unprecedented 1,501 sightings. Hey, Mama Cass, how you doing?
Gotta give the boy points.
Yeah, give the boy points. Oh, it's Cassie. I thought Mama Cass was. See, you threw me all off, Adventure or Nubs. Wow, you threw me all off. You said Mama Cassie, and I should have known because you put the Cassie on there. It's all good. Do you think the aliens will make a huge appearance soon? I don't think so. I really, other than what they other than whoever's being contacted now, I think it's going to keep going on that way for a long time. Just because of the fact that I think they're really not here to bother us. I think they're here to keep our world alive. That's why they shut down nukes. That's why they, intervene. I believe they intervened in the Cold War. Well, yeah, that's true, Nicole. Almost Grandma Cassie. You think they do? Or they will, Nubs? Right. I don't think they're going to harm us either, but I understand, like, Lou Elizondo and Christopher Mellon and all of them's point. You know what I mean? I to where we have to know for sure, right? And I get their aspects of it. I totally do. Because, people say all the time, oh, if they wanted to harm us, they'd all, as a matter of fact, I've said it. If they wanted to harm us, they would have by now. Well, like Christopher Mellon said on Twitter the other day, what did he say? Something about the Soviet Union, that's like saying the Soviet Union, oh, they wouldn't harm us. They haven't by now, or they would have already. Well, hello. You know what I mean? I get their take on it. I understand from both sides, And I think with this, you really have to be on the fence when it comes to, you have to look at things logically. And you have to look at things, I really believe, I believe half of what I read on Twitter, I believe half what I keep it in the back of my mind. Because there are, some people that are way out there, some people that don't believe at all, right? I'm kind of like right in that middle. I want to believe. Well, obviously, Ghostwriter, I'm Russian-Canadian, right? Russia-Alaska-Canadian. Right. So, like I said, the sightings went from 170 UFO reports each year to 1,501. Perhaps the most extraordinary of all came in July 1952, when a series of unusual blips suddenly lit up radar screens across Washington, D.C. Bewildered, military personnel scrambled jets to intercept the bogies, but while their pilots reported seeing bright lights dancing through the night sky, they were unable to catch them. In the wake of the sightings, the U.S. Air Force held a press conference in which Major General John Sanford said the government would continue to investigate reports made by credible observers of relatively incredible things. Sanford said the events of Washington may have been temperature inversions. Yeah. Layers of warm air that can cause radar aberrations, and he assured the Americans that UFOs did not bear any conceivable threat to the United States. That is true, Scoot. She said the enemy within is much more dangerous. Well, we know you. How if you're an unknown cryptid nubs, because you're Nubzillion, right? Well, we know you, so you can't be unknown. We know of the nubs. Yes, Freaky Geek. That's I brought that up a couple months ago, I believe. Yeah, for people that are not astronauts. Yeah, right. Exactly, Freaky. Oh, okay. So we all know you, but the cryptid hunters don't. Gotcha. Okay. So investigating or debunking. Despite Sanford's claims, many in President Harry Truman's administration, I should say, were indeed concerned that UFOs were a safety hazard. Whether the sightings were real or just mass hysteria, reports from panicked citizens ran the risk of choking federal communications channels. Some in the CIA even believed that the Soviets staged a UFO incident to help screen an attack on the United States. All right, Stu, hurry back. In January 1953, the CIA convened a group of experts under the direction of Caltech physicist H.P. Robertson to review the flying saucer issue. The Robertson panel concluded that most UFO sightings could easily be explained away as harmless optical illusions or weather phenomena. Still, the group suggested the government should take steps to debunk UFO events to help prevent a potential public outroar. In a movie that would provide fuel for conspiracy theories, players for years to come, they also just suggested that the feds soothe the national consciousness by using mass media, celebrities, and even Walt Disney Company to ridicule and discredit UFOs. With the help of civilian astronomer J. Allen Hynek, Project Blue Book's investigators spent the next several years debunking UFO sightings as everything from hoaxes and misidentified aircraft to birds to weather balloons, astronomical phenomena, contrails, everything. The team successfully cleared up thousands of cases, yet their explanations often seemed as unbelievable as the reports themselves. In 1966, UFO in Michigan was blamed on swamp gas, Andy's favorite, right? And in 1968, Blue Book concluded that the group of B-52 pilots who witnessed strange lights moving over North Dakota had simply seen the Star of Vega. Among the many who reserved harsh words for Blue Book's methods was none other than Dr. Hynek, who had been with the program since the days of Project Sign and was popularly viewed as the chief debunker. The entire Blue Book operation was a follow-up, he later wrote in the 1970s. Not enough attention was paid to the subject to acquire the kind of data needed even to decide the nature of a UFO phenomenon. After Blue Book's famous swamp gas explanation and other far-fetched attempts to move UFOs to the identified category, future President Gerald Ford, then a Michigan congressman, called for full-blown congressional investigation into the any apprehension that the Air Force was engaged in a cover-up. The result was an independent study on UFOs funded by the federal government and run out of the University of Colorado. Led by Edward U. Condon, the group first convened in late 1966 before releasing its findings in the lengthy 1968 tome titled Scientific Study of Unidentified Flying Objects. The Condon report was unequivocal in its findings. Our general conclusion is that nothing has come from the study of UFOs in the past 21 years that it has added to scientific knowledge. It read on the basis of present knowledge, the least likely explanation of UFOs is hypnosis of extraterrestrial visitation. Holy hell, guys, I can't talk today. Critics claim that the study was biased, and Condon himself described it as a fiasco and damned nonsense. But its findings convinced the Air Force to finally pull the plug on Project Blue Book. On December 17, 1969, the Secretary of Air Force released a memo announcing that the study no longer can be justified either on the ground of national security or in the interest of science. Says, I've noticed more sightings of UFOs have been seen in California, Arizona, Utah, and places that way more than the East Coast. Yeah, if you actually look it up, a lot of, I don't know, I haven't really looked in on it, since or whatnot, but since when I started, I used to keep track of it all the time. We look at the UFO stalker. It's actually gone down. Last week there was 90 sightings, which is down 3% from the week before. Last month is 390 sightings, which was 8%, down 8% more. I know it used to be a lot of sightings would be around nuclear sites. Um, but yeah, let's see if I can bring up this map. This map is finished. So this is the map. So I mean, they're still all over the place, but I know, like it used to be. That's the Black Triangle sighting. Solid black car site here. I've noticed a lot of like they come in waves too. If you notice, like um, a lot of people see. I know there was a sighting up here. I just right here. As you said. So, see, I hate this map. See, this was closest. It's Seward. I know there was a sighting in Fairbanks. I don't know if they recorded it though. It's Denali. Denali. What? Denali. Fairbanks. No, this was a couple months ago. But I know somebody just posted they saw a sighting the other night, and it was from an officer. Um, it was like 2 nights ago, I think. Oh, you're all right, Freaky. I know, maybe Freaky. This may sound painful, but have you tried to iron your tongue before live to see if it helps wrap around words better? Maybe. Hey, I do have a hair straightener. I should try that. Huh? Yeah. So anyway, critics claim that the study was biased. Um, like I said, because he claims it to be a fiasco or damn nonsense. So how can you have somebody that that's like I don't understand. Even paranormal investigators, cryptozoologists, UFO researchers. Like I get that there's a lot of people out there that um, want their 15 minutes of fame, I guess. Uh, but when you have somebody come to you and I've seen it on Twitter a lot, whether it be a cryptid animal, a paranormal, investigation, ghost, or a spirit, or whatever, right? Somebody's asking for help, and you give them, your thoughts. And I get it; it gets frustrating. Um, but how people can treat people like shit just because their sighting doesn't fall in what you think it is, or you think what's going on. The investigator treating the person that is trying to find help like shit. You know what I'm saying? I don't get that. I don't get that. Yeah, that's how the map is for. It's very weird. It's very weird. Uh, I just don't just because if somebody comes to you asking for help and it don't come in your train of thought, or, you know, like somebody's seen a UFO and they're freaked out about it, right? Going to somebody that's um, a skeptic, but yet is in the UFO community, right? Basically, like calling them bullshit. So I just, same with cryptid zoologists, because it don't, people think that, oh, they saw a Bigfoot or whatnot, but it don't fit into the Bigfoot mantra. So people are like, well, you didn't see nothing. You know what I mean? I don't get it. I don't get it. But that's just, so since by then, Blue Book has has analyzed 12,618 cases of flying objects in America's skies. 701 of which remain unidentified. A few days later, New York Times editorial said the decision to close Blue Book should be applauded as a victory for rationality. No doubt the true believers will continue the quest, the article added, convinced more than ever that some bureaucratic conspiracy is seeking to hush up the news that the Earth is under extraterrestrial reconnaissance. Okay, I will definitely tell him no. Yeah, basically, freaky deep. So with the end of Project Blue Book, the federal government officially got out of the business of UFOs. President Jimmy Carter, which we found out later on that it was bullshit. Anyway, President Jimmy Carter later suggested that NASA look into the subject in 1979, but the agency demurred on the grounds that there was not enough tangible evidence to warrant a study. Nevertheless, several other Western nations have continued investigating. A UFO desk run by the British Ministry of Defense remained in operation until recently as 2009, and France continues to keep an eye on the skies to this day under GEIPAN, a government agency tasked with collecting and analyzing UFO reports. So with that being said, let's look at the UFO sightings taken seriously by the U.S. government, right? Now, Maury Island in Washington was the first encounter of the Men in Black. After Harold Dahl, his son, and dog saw 6 donut-shaped UFOs over their boat in Puget Sound, the strange craft started raining debris. Remember this? I've talked about this before. I believe that's when his dog got killed and his son got hurt, if I believe right, or if I remember right. Right here it says the proof didn't survive. The next day, Dahl was visited by a man in black suit who somehow knew all the details. His message: forget the whole thing or suffer the consequences. Now, that was the first ever sighting with the Men in Black that we know of. And that happened June 27th, 1947. Um, no, it got hit with debris. Yeah, it was like 6 donut-shaped saucers, like inner tubes. That's what I picture, like inner tubes flying in the sky. Um, So they took that one seriously. They took, of course, Roswell. Kelly, Kentucky, which we're going to talk about because that is one of my favorite stories. Welcome back, Scoop. Kelly, Kentucky, of course, is the birth of the Little Green Men, a farm family story of a terrifying siege by otherworldly beings, would become one of the most detailed and baffling accounts of the alien close encounters on record. It was notable for the large number of witnesses, nearly a dozen. The duration of the encounter, several hours, and the close proximity between the witnesses and the creatures was just a few feet away. Yeah, so that's one of my favorite alien stories. I don't know why, it just is. Then we have Mount Palomar, California. Starting in the late 40s, George Adamski gained fame in UFO circles for his countless flying saucer photos. He later claimed to have met and communicated with a visitor. Communicated with a visitor from Venus using a combination of hand gestures and mental telepathy. Adamski particularly admired the creature's baby soft flesh and glistening hair. So, to some, he was a prophet. To others, of course, he was a laughing stock, right? Even today, more than a half a century after his death, George Adamski remains one of the most curious and controversial characters in UFO history. He had multiple claims of UFO fame, starting in the late 1940s, where he took countless photos of what he insisted were flying saucers. J. Edgar Hynek said they were fakes. They were crude. He dismissed them as crude fakes. Then in 1952, Adamski reported that he had met and conversed with a visitor from Venus in the California desert using a combination of hand gestures and mental telepathy. Okay? He chronicled his adventures in several books. The first, Flying Saucers Have Landed, in 1953, co-authored with Desmond Leslie, recounted his chat with Venetian. I don't know. Widely read by the time, it has later gained a new generation of fans in the trippy. Adamski's 1955 sequel, Inside the Spaceship, described further meetings not only with Venetians but also with emissaries from Mars and Saturn. In Adamski's telling, every planet in our solar system was populated with non-human inhabitants, as was the dark side of the Earth's moon, which, again, has been said over and over again. In the 1955 book, he claimed that his new friends took him aboard one of their scout ships, flew him into an immense mothership hovering over the Earth, and gave him a ride around the moon and treated him to a colorful travelogue life on Venus. Along the way, he was also tutored by a spaceman he called the Master. The Master, who is said to be nearly 1,000 years old, shared the secrets of the universe with him, only some of which he was allowed to divulge back on Earth. Prosperous as the story's seen, and Adamski became an international celebrity and lectured widely. Queen Julian of the Netherlands raised a public stir after inviting him to her palace in 1969 to discuss extraterrestrial doings. Adamski supposedly claimed a secret 1963 meeting with the Pope as well. Adamski soon had followers all over the planet, but not everybody was on board. Author C. Clarke the author of 2001: A Space Odyssey, not only denounced his work, but characterized his believers as nitwits. Where in the Netherlands? I don't know. Wherever the Queen Julian would be. Where did Queen Julian live? Oh, it just says, I don't know, wherever the Queen lives. I don't know. Do you guys have a special place where your Queen lives? Oh, maybe wait a minute. Hold on one second. I'm looking. I'm trying to find it for you. Oh, I'm going to pronounce this wrong. Northwood Palace? Does that make sense? Yeah, she definitely lives on Earth. Oh, no problem, hon. You are a great help, Ricky. Well, that's where she was born. Oh, I don't know where this was then. Yes. Okay. I'm gonna put it 11. Hey, Mo. Those are the two places. She lived there and then died there. So I told you I'd butcher it. Hey, Carol. I'm lucky I can speak English, let alone say a Dutch word. So, um, Adminsky soon had followers all over the planet, but not everybody, of course, was on board, like we said. Uh, so who is George Adminsky, right? He was reportedly born in Poland in 1891, came to the U.S. with his parents as a young boy, and grew up in far northern New York State. Yes, that's all I can do for this ride. So he seems to have had a little formal education, although the press would later refer him to as Professor Adamski, a habit appears to have encouraged. Adamski enjoyed his first glimpse of glory in 1934 as the leader of a group calling itself the Royal Order of Tibet. The Los Angeles Times reported they had bought an old estate in Laguna Beach, California, and planned to establish it as the first Tibetan monastery in America on the site. Somehow, Advinsky convinced the reporter he had lived in the ancient monastery of Tibet as a child. I learned great truths up there on the roof of the top of the world. In 1936, he was back in the papers again, this time as the leader of the group called Universal Progressive Christianity, whose international headquarters, he said, would be established in Laguna Beach. Aside from offering a tax plan to end the Great Depression in 1938, the professor stayed out of the news until after World War II. But on the post-war UFO craze took off, Adamski hopped right on. So I'll show you some of the pictures that he said he took. This is the Venetian scout craft. Remember, he said he was on that craft when they took him up to the mothership. Let me go ahead and get that up for you guys. You tell me. That's a picture of the scout ship, right? And then we have don't have any more pictures. That was the only one. What the hell? So the Venetian kind, or the people from Venus, to me, I don't know if you guys would think so, but they look like Pleiadians to me. This is obviously an artist representation. But to me, they look Pleiadian or North. Hey, Elizabeth, how you doing? Yeah, Eddie's working. Let me see, catch up on chat. I'm doing good, Mo. Thanks for asking. Looks like Silo. Oh, yeah, kind of did, didn't it? I can see where you get that. Looks like the race from Stargate Atlantis. You are special, Freaky. Why would my sound's going in and out? That's weird. I don't know why. Well, I don't want it right in front of my face. Well, I don't mind it right in front of my face. Is that better? I don't know what's going on. I'm going to have to unplug. Well, anyway, I'm moving to a different room, so I'm going to have to plug anything for everything anyway, right? I even made sure before the thing that it was on default. Oh, you know what it might be? I just looked over and my Wi-Fi is like going from red to green. That might be it. That might be what's doing it. Probably after freaking. Um, so yeah, that's all about him, like what he was saying. But according to this, they took him seriously, right? The government took him seriously. Of course, Skinwalker Ranch is one of them, with the cattle mutilations and mysterious shapeshifters. Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico. This bizarre case involved two military personnel searching for the desert for debris from a recent missile launch. One of the men reported seeing the other pulled up into a flying silver disc. 3 days later, the alleged abductee's corpse was found 10 miles away, severely mutilated and drained of blood. Proof remains thin, resting largely on a government report that has reportedly vanished. So, details of this are both grisly and strange. Surgical. Corpses found under the open sky with eyes plucked out, tongues removed, and private parts exercised. Thank you for the ice cream, Nicole. That's why it looks funny. There we go. That's better. So, one of the most shocking cases, the Lubbock Cunning incident, involves an American Air Force sergeant allegedly abducted by a saucer-like aircraft. after which his cleanly mutilated body was found in a New Mexico desert. In ufology circles, reports have circulated that the case was studied by Project Grudge, one of the earliest Air Force programs tasked with investigating sightings of UFOs in years after World War II. The result of the Air Force investigation into the abduction was allegedly a 600-page document labeled Project Grudge Report 13. 600-page document just gone. Problem is, no official information on Report 13 exists, and the U.S. government denies its very existence. So its details are known only from secondhand sources who claim to have seen and analyzed the document. One account comes from controversial conspiracy theorist William Cooper, 1943 to 2001, who asserts he was tasked with analyzing an anecdote version of the Grudge Report 13 in the early 70s. Hey, Shrimp Shack, how you doing? Elizabeth said there was a field in England that there was some cows to be killed in drains of blood. Lord, I think in the 70s or 80s. Yeah. You can hear me better? Okay, good. I don't know what's going on with that. The other came from William English, a former Green Beret captain who says he was too asked to analyze the document while assigned to a U.S. security service at a former Royal Air Force base in England. English dictated 2 audio cassettes outlining what he remembered from Report 13. And according to Military Encounters with Extraterrestrials, The Real World by author Frank Joseph, English also participated in the 1991 Colorado radio broadcast where he discussed his findings. Cooper's and English stories echoes one another closely. Both recount an alleged incident of March 1956 involving Air Force Sergeant Jonathan P. Lovett, who was assisting Major William Cunningham in the White Sands missile testing grounds near Holland Air Force Base in New Mexico, while searching for scattered debris from a recent rocket test. Cunningham was shocked when he heard a loud scream. Thinking Lovett had perhaps been bitten by a snake, English recounts Cunningham crossed the dune to aid his partner when he purposely witnessed one of the more bizarre human extraterrestrial encounters. Instead of finding Lovett nursing a snake bite, Cunningham, according to English, recounted seeing that the soldier being dragged by a long serpent arm. It was wrapped around his leg and connected to a silver disc hovering in the air, 15 to 20 feet away. Cunningham watched, frozen in horror, as Lovett was pulled inside the craft, which then rose vertically into the sky. The major then stumbled toward his jeep and radioed for assistance. Security teams arrived and the disturbed Cunningham was confined to the base hospital for observation and treatment after retelling what he was believed he witnessed. According to Joseph's military encounter book, base personnel did confirm an unidentified radar contact near Holland at the time Lovett vanished. The base dispatched search parties in the desert and would be there 3 days before Lovett's nude corpse was discovered, some 10 miles from the site of the alleged abduction. From all indications, the body had been exposed to the elements for 24 to 48 hours. And according to English, the report offered no explanation of what might account for the missing 3rd day. And the autopsy performed on Lovett raised more questions than delivered answers. First question was, why had Lovett's corpse been so severely mutilated? His tongue had been cut from the lower portion of his jaw, his eyes were gouged out, and his anus removed. Shut up, Andy. In the Air Force medical examination report pertaining to the incident, English alleges that the coroner remarked on the apparent surgical skill used to remove the organs. In particular, that the anus and the genitalia had been neatly extracted like a plug. Shut up, Andy. Perhaps most puzzling was the fact that the body had been completely drained of blood. Was surprisingly. So I wonder if the ones that are taking the cows are just bloodsuckers. Like, I mean, there's different races of alien beings, right? Or do you think? See, I always thought the ones bloodsucking was the government. You know what I mean? But I don't know. Um, Perhaps the most puzzling fact that the body had been completely drained of blood. But surprisingly, there are no vascular collapses usually associated with death by bleeding. Right? I don't know. I mean, maybe it says, while easily disregarded as fiction, the alleged 1956 New Mexico incident offers intriguing parallels to other reported mutilations, both past and present. In 1988, a body was allegedly found at the Urupinga Reservoir in Brazil. According to reports, the victim had been dead for 48 to 72 hours, but there were no signs of decomposition. You know what I'm saying? The eyes, ears, tongue, and genitalia have been removed, as had the digestive organs. Officials were never able to identify the victim. Widespread reports of livestock mutilations also contain similar details. Since the early 70s, incidents of mutilated cattle, sheep, horses, rabbits, deer, bison, and elk have been reported, with the bloodless corpse often lacking the jaw flesh, eyes, ears, tongue, lymph nodes, and genitalia. In 2009, the Denver Post reported 4 calves were found mutilated in similar ways. And NPR reported in 2019 in Colorado, in which 5 young purebred bulls mysteriously showed up dead, drained of blood, with body parts cleanly excised. What about knowing shadows? What? A lot of people lean towards the aliens. One caller told us to look basically. One caller told us to look for basically a depression under the carcass because they said the alien ships will kind of beam the cow up, do whatever they do, and then just drop them from a great height. I wonder if there was a depression under the military guy's body, or that other one in Brazil. I wonder if that's weird. That's very weird. Let's see. Let's see another one here. In November 23rd, in Kinawa Point, Michigan. November 23rd, 1953, Air Force jet chases UFO and vanishes. When radar picked up an unidentified craft in a restricted airspace over Lake Superior, an F-89C Scorpion jet was scrambled to intercept. After the 2 blips Briefly locked together on radar, the Scorpion vanished, and the UFO sped off. Wreckage was never found, and the Air Force gave conflicting explanations. So the story goes, near the U.S.-Canadian border, U.S. Defense Command noticed a blip on the radar where it shouldn't have been. An unidentified object in restricted airspace over Lake Superior, not far from Solok, the Great Lakes' most vital commercial gateway. An F-89C Scorpion jet from Truax Air Force Base in Madison, Wisconsin, took off from nearby Crncross Air Force Base to investigate, with two crew members on board. First Lieutenant Felix Monicella, who had clocked 811 flying hours, including 121 in similar aircraft, took the pilot's seat, while Second Lieutenant Robert Wilson was observing radar. Hey, Sophie. Doing well, thank you, thank you. Aw, you're so kind. You're so kind. So the men would not return from their interception mission. What followed, according to Donald Keogh, the former Marine Corps naval aviator and UFO researcher who wrote about the incident in his 1955 book, The Flying Saucer Conspiracy, it was one of the strangest cases on record. Once airborne, Lieutenant Wilson had difficulty tracking the unknown object, which kept changing course. So with ground control directing the avatars over the radar, aviators, not the avatars, not them. That's a different story. The aviators over the radio, the Scorpion gave chase. The jet, traveling at 500 miles per hour, pursued the object for 30 minutes, gradually closing in. On the ground, the radar operator guided the jet down from 25,000 to 7,000 feet, watching one blip chase the other across the radar screen. Gradually, the jet caught up with the unknown object about 70 miles off of Keeley Point in Upper Michigan, at an altitude of 8,000 feet and approximately 160 miles northwest of Solok. At that point, the two radar blips converged into one. They locked together, as Keogh would put it later. And then, according to the official accident report, the radar return from the F-89 simply disappeared from the GCI, which is ground-controlled interception station, radar scope. And then the first radar return, indicating the unidentified object, veered off and vanished too. The United States Air Force and the United States Coast Guard and Canadian Air Force conducted an extensive search and rescue effort. No record or sign of the pilots were ever found. Yeah, well, avatars are long-standing. They've come for millions of years. So creepy. They just up and disappeared. The blips locked together and boom, disappeared. Very creepy. We have one from North Yorkshire, England. UFO appears during Nato War Games. Numerous UFO reports emerged during NATO's exercise in Greece, the largest peacetime military exercise since World War II, organized in the North Atlantic. In one case, officers and crew at the RAF Air Force, the base, reported a sighting so perplexing that even the Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, demanded details. In late September of 1952, only months after a rash of flying saucer sightings over Washington, D.C. made headlines around the world, dozens of military officers participated in the NATO exercises in the North Atlantic and were struck by their own UFO fever. exercise main brace was the largest peacetime military exercise since World War II. The War Games style maneuver simulated NATO's response to a mock attack on Europe, presumably by the Soviet Union. The main brace operation involved 200 ships, 1,000 planes, and 80,000 soldiers from multiple NATO countries, including a large deployment from the United States and the United Kingdom. In a year dominated by news reporting of UFOs, Pentagon officials half joked with naval intelligence that they should keep an eye out for aliens during the NATO exercise, said Edward Ruppel, UFOs Air Force captain in charge of the top secret Project UFO investigation. As it turns out, they weren't far off base. No one really expected the UFOs to show up, Ruppel wrote in his book in 1956, The Report on Unidentified Flying Objects. Nevertheless, once again, the UFOs were their old, unpredictable selves. They were there. Mommy says, I saw a UFO in North Yorkshire. It was close to a circle of light around 1996. Really, Melanie? Interesting. Near the RAF base. Wow. That's interesting. The first moon brace encounter came on September 13 when the captain and crew of a Danish destroyer spotted a triangle-shaped object moving through the night sky at alarming speed. The unidentified craft emitted a blue glow and was estimated by Lieutenant Commander Schmidt Jensen to be traveling upward of 900 miles per hour. On September 20th, an American newspaper reporter named Wallace Litwin was aboard the USS Franklin D. Roosevelt as an aircraft carrier participating in the main brace exercises when he saw a commotion on deck. Several pilots and flight crew members pointing at a silver sphere in the sky that appeared to be following the fleet. Litwin quickly shot 4 color photos of the round object, which he assumed was a weather balloon. In a letter to a UFO investigator years later, Litwin recounted that he went below deck and joked with fellow newspaper correspondents that he had just shot a flying saucer. This caught the attention of the ship's executive officer, who informed Litwin that no weather balloons had been released that day. Can you imagine just going down and joking around thinking, I just, got pictures of a weather balloon, and then the officer's like, there was no weather balloon. And you're like, what? Excuse me? The only other ship in the vicinity, which also confirmed that no weather balloons were in the air or accounted for. In other words, the skies above this NATO fleet were very carefully observed and nothing flew around overhead unobserved, wrote Glenwood. But I know that I had taken pictures of what looked like a ping pong ball 10 feet over my head. Ruppel and the Blue Book Project team followed up with the Navy and interviewed members of the flight deck crew. Some dismissed it as a weather balloon while others had their doubts. It was traveling too fast, and although it resembled a balloon in some ways, wrote Ruppel, it was far from being identical to the hundreds of balloons that the crew had seen in other launches. The most perplexed sighting that one may have single-handedly relaunched the British military's interest in UFOs was reported by a half a dozen Royal Air Force officers and aircrew based in Topcliffe, Yorkshire, England. Hey, Patrick, how you doing, hon? It took place on September 19th in British meteor, as a British meteor fighter jet was returning to the Topcliffe airfield from exercise over the North Sea. When the plane had descended to 5,000 feet, crew on ground spotted a silvery, critical, circular object. Okay, it's time to shut the show down now. Right? That's what it was. I needed a mooncake. Thanks, Nicole. Or Freaky Geek, I'm sorry. What I needed that sugar. So while the plane had descended to 5,000 feet, crew on the ground spotted a silvery, circular object traveling several thousand feet above the meteor, but on the same trajectory. In a report preserved in the National Archives, RAF Flight Lieutenant John Kilburn of the 269th Squadron said the object had began to descend toward the meteor, swinging on a pendular motion, similar to the falling sycamore leaf. So, going like this. At first, Kilburn thought it was a parachute or an engine cowling that had broken loose from the jet. But then the object suddenly stopped in midair, rotated on its own axis, and zipped off at an incredible speed over the horizon. The acceleration was in excess of a shooting star, he said. I've never seen such a phenomenon before. The movements of the object were not identical with anything I've ever seen in the air. Unlike previous UFO sightings kept hush-hush by the RAF and Royal Navy, the top cliff sighting was leaked to press and splashed across the front page of Sunday News. Saucer change, RAF jet plane, reported Sunday Dispatch. The circus-like publicity surrounding the top cliff incident, but the British military intelligence it put them in a difficult spot. They couldn't ignore questions from the press, but they also weren't interested in a serious investigation into UFOs. They'd already been down that road. While conducting research on the UK National Archives in 2001 for a book called Out of the Shadows, British journalist and UFO investigator David Clark made an incredible discovery. Despite officials' repeated denials that they existed, he uncovered documents that referenced top secret UK government UFO investigations. The six-page report from the Ministry of Defense Directive of Scientific Intelligence, basically it's the equivalent of the CIA in America, dated June 1951, was produced by a top secret panel of military intelligence experts known as the Flying Saucer Working Party. Now, have you guys heard this? So they had, like we had the Blue Book Project. I don't know what's going on, Patrick. I know. I've never heard of this either. I'm going to have to look into this. This is pretty freaking neat. It's pretty interesting. Well, let me try to put it back on. Freaky, you scared me on that one. Just as I clicked the button. Is that better? Is that better? Well, I could be under. You know damn well a bit better. All right, let's try this one. Is that better? Testing, testing. Oh, the other one sounds much better. Hey, Ryan. How you doing, hon? Thank you for the ice creams, Patrick. So we're going to have to go with that one, right? That one's the best? So it said, according to the report, the 5-member team had been meeting since 1950 to analyze reports of unexplained sightings from RAF and Royal Navy pilots. The Flying Saucer Working Party, much like the Air Force higher-ups overseeing the Project Blue Book investigations in America, dismissed all sightings by experienced military personnel as either mistaken identification of conventional aircraft. Now, how the hell you're going to let your pilots that misidentify normal planes fly for your military? No, Freaky Good. Good try, though. So they're saying it's either optical illusions or psychological delusions. So you're going to call your military delusional. Known astronomical or meteorological phenomenon or deliberate hoaxes. The clandestine team concluded that the only way to get substantial data of UFO would be to establish a global network of radar stations and photographers continuously monitoring the skies for aberrations. We should regard this as evidence so far available as a salutary profitless enterprise, they wrote. We accordingly recommend very strongly that no further investigation of reported mysteries aerial phenomenon be undertaken unless and until some material evidence becomes available. You hear nothing, freaky geek. This was the conclusion shared with Winston Churchill when he fired off a memo in summer of '52 reading, "What does all this stuff about flying saucers amount to? What can it mean? What is the truth? Let me have a report at your convenience." Churchill was shown the top secret report and the topic of UFO investigations was briefly laid to rest. That is, until exercise main brace. In the wake of Topcliffe sighting and result, that's when they did the whole main brace, the NATO, Hello. Tired. That's when they decided to do this whole main brace with the NATO and everything, right? In 1953, the British Air Ministry established a UFO desk within the Deputy Dictator of Intelligence known cryptically as A13. From then on, all explained sightings by British military personnel would be controlled internally, classified as restricted, and not shared with the press. Clark, for one, isn't surprised that dozens of sailors and airmen spotted unidentified and unexplainable aerial phenomenon during the 2 weeks of the high-stake exercises. Excuse me, which does make sense, right? Because the fact that if they're having military stuff go on, even though that was fake, right? I wonder if they had like nukes on board. I don't know, were nukes around then? So the aliens or the UFOs could be thinking, hey, they're really going to war here. We need to stop this, and why they came out. That's our room phone. So as to the seriousness of the British military's investigation at Topcliffe and later UFO sightings, Clark cites a newspaper clipping published months after the main brace exercises where a reporter pressed an Air Ministry official for the results of their investigation. The official said he had no idea of the investigation was ongoing or if its conclusions would be shared with the public. Was there any chance that might turn out to be a flying saucer? Wrote the reporter. One gathered from the low chuckle of the official that there was not the remotest chance. We take those stories with a large spoonful of salt, old boy, he said. And that's how they looked at it back then, right? I mean, really, that's how they looked at it. All right, what else we got here? Fargo, North Dakota, they got in a dogfight with a mysterious white orb. Flatwoods, the Flatwoods Monster. Lubbock, Texas, the blue-green lights in the sky. Montgomery, Alabama, cigar-shaped UFO. New Mexico, green fireballs. This is what's interesting is about the 1952 Washington. I mean, UFOs buzzed over the White House. How can fighter jets were deployed. How can you blame that on temperature inversions? Hey, Earther aliens, how you doing, hon? I mean, I just don't get that. Yeah, I saw that, Patrick. I saw it going up the East Coast. Be safe, my friend. I mean, I just don't. A lot of people saw it. So if there was, temperature infractions, right? Could it be coming from the UFOs? Because people saw it in the skies. I don't get it. How many sightings they just passed off? And of course, 2004, the Nimitz, which we've all seen those videos over and over and over again. Again, both pilots and radar operators reported that the objects traveled at hypersonic speeds, appearing to be intelligently controlled and possessed aerodynamic capabilities that far surpass any currently known aircraft technology. Excuse me. Blowing off, I mean, they're not blowing that off, obviously. But it's just one of those things, I just don't understand how they can. There's so many sightings, but I don't understand either is why there's waves of different ones. We'll have a wave of the round ones, right? The spheres. We'll have a wave of the dark ones. We'll have the wave of the V. Hey, Patricia, how you doing, hon? Welcome. I just don't. I don't know if it's different species, which would make sense if it was. But is it do they have a thing where, okay, we're going to go here. Do they make plans? We're going to go here in November. So don't any other UFOs come around. there's a lot that goes, what people don't think about. Yeah, Patrick said, well, if a UFO hits the atmosphere, it has to heat up. I don't think it does, though. I think it blinks in and out. I really think they blink in and out. Although I'm trying to wrap my mind around, it wasn't the Nimitz, I don't think. Maybe it is. No, it's not the Nimitz. Is it the Go Fast? The Tic Tac. How they said it spread the water. Now, if you've seen the video of the Tic Tac where it was up above the water, right, and the water was spraying. Now, was it only like camouflaging part of it? Now, I believe that they have like a warp, not a warp, a field around them. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I think that's how they move. But I just sit there and watch it, and I think, how the hell is it? What's moving the water? Is it them going so fast, moving the water? I don't know. I don't know, guys. No, energy is transferred on entry. Right, yeah. Okay, yeah, I get what you're saying, aliens. Yeah, energy is transferred on entry. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Well, yeah, kind of, Patrick, a shield like at the Enterprise on Star Trek. Kinda. It makes me, I don't know. I sit there and think about the weirdest shit. Hi, Andrew. Welcome. So my mother claimed to have seen a UFO in Wales, UK. Yeah, there's, Is that how, like, because I know damn well that obviously if we were going, what I don't understand is, say you're beamed up, right? And then you're zipped to wherever, a mothership or just wherever, right? Our bodies couldn't handle that. We'd be flattened. Do you know what I mean? From the G forces. Is that all transferred? Or are different aliens have different, is that why they have different ships? If that makes sense. Is because they're different species or whatnot, can handle, their bodies can handle different things. I don't know. This is the stuff I think about. And when I'm watching documentaries and shit like this will pop into my head. So in Wales, do you know what year that was, Andrew? Right, Freaky Geek, but I wonder if that's true. See, I don't know if that works like, I mean, I get that. Totally get that. But I still think in the 70s, okay. Interesting. I still think it would still affect us somehow. Okay, Andy says inertial dampening, combining this with opening an invisible to us tube-like field through the air, water, and allows for much faster travel with no loss or wasted energy due to friction. Simples. Well, I'm glad you think of that. Combine this. See, I'm thoroughly trying to piece my brain through it. In 1982, in Western Germany, I seen UFO land on the base taking soil samples and then taken straight up at a fantastic speed. Well, that's wild. I wonder what they're thinking, what they wanted with soil samples. I mean, were they basically doing what we do on the moon and Mars and stuff like that, taking samples? What if there are people? Yes, they're always watching, damn it. What if there's people on Mars and they're looking at our rover like, what the hell is that thing? You know. Andrew says, my mother was going to see her grandmother a few miles out from Cardiff. She described it as a long cigar shape. And that's the other ones. It comes in waves. A lot of people, when one reports a cigar shape, it's like a bunch of reports of the cigar shaped ones. Andy, are you a secret science doctor we don't know about, sir? Andrew, oh my God. I saw Andrew. Andy is very, very smart. More smart than he lets on. Oh, you decided to come up? There he is, the guy of the hour. Oh, maybe not. Okay, I just shut him off.
What the fuck are you doing?
I don't know. Ryan says, anyone else hoping that extraterrestrials resemble either the Predator or a really hot gothic chick? No? Just me? Okay. Love it. Oh, is that how Nicole gets her broomsticks? Gotcha.
Oh, Andy, nobody let me out. I escaped.
See, Andy's really the Men in Black. Did you see that, Freaky? He said, I could tell you the answer, Freaky, but really don't want to see you have a suddenly disappear or have a fatal accident. I think Andy is the MIB. That's why they haven't come, because
we're already here.
Yeah, exactly. Mystery solved. Yes, Skook, I'm right there with you. I believe some of them are ours. I really do. Whispered. Uh-oh, somebody allowed Andy a day pass from the asylum. Hide your beer. Yeah. We have a mole. Yeah, I'm telling you. What do you think? Do you think that works? Does that sound about right?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I guess.
Do you think Andy's MIB? And oh, he's AIB, asshole in black.
That I can agree with.
Oh. Yeah, you come in as we're ending. That's, you know.
Hey, I made it.
You did. But yeah, interesting, you know. I'll leave you with a couple stories from. Get that off there. Let's see. Trying to find one that's not really long. Okay, here's a couple of them. Here's some bizarre and unexplained UFO, UAP, extraterrestrial encounters. One says, the green glowing cylinder object followed my car all the way to our farmhouse, 8 miles east of Cheney, Kansas. This was in August 2018. It vanished, and I didn't think anything more of it until approximately 2 to 3 a.m. The green light was back, and it was on my property now. There I saw it for the next 6 weeks. The same light, 3 a.m., with small dark entities walking the property. The light would wake me and my neighbor up at the same time every night. The small, approximately 4-foot tall beings would wander around the property, hurt some of our cattle, and actually came to my residence 4 or 5 times. They would look around the house. My dog would interact with them, and they'd occasionally move things in the house. My neighbor also said that they saw the small entities. We exchanged info one day by chance. I was happy it wasn't just me seeing and experiencing this. They stayed for about 5 to 6 weeks and then left. We found various strange-looking imprints in the ground all over the property. We are on 50 acres, and we had a few mysterious cattle deaths. I'm not a rancher, but my neighbor is, and was very educated on various ways cattle die, and he hadn't seen anything like that before. However, they were not harmful to the humans at any time. It felt like they being in a long-term study project, and once the research was finished, they left. This one says, hey Melinda, how are ya? Welcome. Back in 2011 in San Antonio, Texas, way before I was familiar with the reptilian stuff, I had the strangest moment ever with a girl. The whole encounter was completely unusual. Thank you for the ice cream, Nicole. Firstly, we spoke to each other outside while having a cigarette and got on so well. He met her at a bar and got on well that at least an hour and a half had gone by, and yet it felt like a minute, quite literally. I remember throwing her a curious look as to say, have we met before? The rapport chemistry was so instantaneous and natural. Then when we were inside the pub sitting down with our friends, she was speaking to someone and I called her name. She turned to me, and honestly, it threw me straight back into my chair. I literally recoiled from the energy intensity which came from her look. It was like nothing I'd ever experienced. Her eyes seemed twice as large. She was opposite the table from me and leaning towards me, and at the time I described her eyes to my friends as huge and watery. Now, I would have described them more accurately as reptilian. It was such an intense look that it seemed to go straight through and swallow me whole. Who knows, maybe it was something and nothing, but sometimes I wondered. All I can say is that it weirded me out so much that despite our chemistry, I didn't ask for her number. This guy says, I'm a truck driver. I was heading from Cleveland, Ohio to Columbus, Ohio, which is a normal run from me. Everything happened right in front of me, so I was able to see everything perfectly. On the 10th of August, 2016, 10:30 p.m., I noticed a few planes crossing paths in front of me. I also noticed something weird to my left. There was a star cluster with tons of stars, and some stars were kind of like moving in circles among the other stars. As I was weirded out by that, I called my buddy who was parked nearby at a truck stop to witness what I was seeing. As weird as it sounds, he saw it too. What caught my eye is when one of the flying objects crossed from left to right in the sky in front of me, all of a sudden it stopped by the moon and shot a green light halfway down the sky. In a second of that time, it disappeared. Craziest shit I've ever seen. After the incident, I've been crazy fascinated with UFOs and aliens, so I eventually studied about all of it. Now I have knowledge and the ability to make such activities happen using my mind, and I think that's what it all is. Yeah. After the incident, as well I've seen more clear visuals and encounters that are exactly said or described by videos documented by people. What's going on? I think what's going on is you opened up, at least for this person, he opened up and realized that we're all connected. Our energy is a part of everything, meaning not only can, like, if you believe in reincarnation, not only can you come back as a, human, you can come back as a fairy, you can come back as an alien being, you can come back as whatever, a tree. You know what I mean? And I think that a lot of it has to do with, like I said, hey, G Smoke, we're all connected. And now that he opened his mind up to that, if you concentrate real hard, you can call them too. I think Stephen Greer is definitely onto something there. And I know, Andy, you don't like Stephen Greer, but I do think he's onto something when it comes to that part. Everybody's saying hi.
I know you've been reading, so that's
I
why I
know.
haven't said anything. AG Smoke, Scoops, Melinda, Freaky, Patrick, Andy, Nicole, Ryan. Who else have we got here? Did I cover everybody in the room?
Did you say Andrew? Did you say...
Nope.
I'm trying to think.
Yes, Nicole. I am very tired.
This person says, I live in northeastern Ontario, and I've seen many craft over the years, from cigar shape to triangle crafts and lights. I've also had many occurrences of lost time and remember visitations as a child in the early 70s. My friends, as I call them, were small cat-like beings who would walk through walls and would take me to a sweet friend who was a taller human-sized cat being hybrid. And yes, I know it makes me sound insane, but I don't care. I miss my friends.
I am.
And one last one is in Wisconsin. This happened 4/7/21. I was approached by this blonde, short-haired woman. Her eyes began to quickly flutter, then close the closer she got to me. The fluttering eyes were not in uniform action with another, so I placed my sunglasses onto my head. She then was able to make her eye movement normal, like a human. Does he mean fluttering around like Ryan makes his eyes?
Well, either that or they turned into reptile.
Oh, maybe. Looking into her eyes, I was truly startled.
Fluttering. Maybe she had that inside,
Yeah,
like an alligator?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The eyes were a slit form. Color was very dark blackish. Next to the color was a light medium green. Having gone several more times to which she would send someone else to wait on me. I know that she knows that I know she's not human. And that would be freaky. Like, I mean, if you had a waitress or something, right? They come up to you and, like, they're trying to get their eyes right and they're fucking up, you know what I mean? And, like, just the knowing that they know that you've seen it would freak me out more than actually seeing it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, you just got yourself busted staring at him.
Yeah, right. But how could you not? I mean, something's happening. You're looking at them like, what the fuck is going on with your eyes? You know?
It's like when somebody's got a really bad lazy eye, it's like you don't know what eye to look at.
It's, that, yeah. But, I mean...
Well, it's the same, because they know you're trying to concentrate on which eye they're fucking, what you're supposed to look at instead of what they're saying.
Right. All right, guys. forget I can't put. There we go. I just put 200 lemons in the chest. Tomorrow, on tomorrow's show, we're going to be talking about underwater cryptids.
Not me.
Well, not you.
More overtime tomorrow.
There you go.
Yeah.
So with that being said, do you want to say your goodbyes?
Night, everybody. Hugs to the ladies. Fist bumps to the guys. Remember, stay safe. Stay strong. We'll get through it.
All right, guys, I have pressed the button. You got 20 seconds. 20 seconds. Hit that button. If the chest doesn't come up for you, click on the chest. It should. Yes, tomorrow is underwater animal or underwater cryptids. Some strange, weird stories from people that have seen underwater cryptids. With that being said, I hope you guys have an awesome day, the rest of your day, night, whatever. Okay, Nicole got 88.3 lemons. Freaky Geek got 51.1 lemons. Patrick got 37.2, and Melanie got 20.9 or 29.8 lemons. Look at, I'm even dyslexic in numbers. Thank you for the lemons, Freaky Geek. Appreciate that. And with that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. Take care. Be safe. And we love you guys. Right?
Right.
All right, guys. Remember to find something today that makes you smile with your eyes. Love you guys.